Amigos de Fox Deportes, la NASCAR está de vuelta, más de 2 meses de parón, pero por fin volveremos a tener la adrenalina y por supuesto que la tenemos en Fox Deportes. Y hoy me da muchísimo gusto presentar a Ben Kennedy, Vice of Racing Development de la NASCAR, y vamos a estar platicando con él acerca de este regreso. Ben, thank you for joining us here at Fox Deportes.
Yes, thank you for having me today. Appreciate it.
We're really happy and excited to have the NASCAR back. It's hard to live without the adrenaline and the racing. And I would like to ask you about the sport and the current situation. What makes NASCAR sport available to be back on track and even comparing it with other sports?
Yeah, you know, we're certainly excited to be back racing this weekend at Darlington Raceway on Sunday. So I know everyone is eager to get back to the track. A lot of our competitors, a lot of our teams, a lot of our drivers. That said, we also want to make sure it's done as safely and as responsibly as possible. So it's been a company-wide effort for us to get back to racing, making sure we have the right protocols and procedures in place, thinking about, you know, each race weekend as we go into it, trying to make a lot of one-day shows out of the box, keep everyone within driving distance to Charlotte, North Carolina. So we're all excited and eager to get back to racing. That said, we also want to make sure we're doing it as safely and as respectfully as well.
Which are the main concerns about this comeback?
You know, I think, you know, not really concerned. It's just more so of making sure that we execute against all of our strategies. You know, there's been, you know, so many different teams that have been focused on getting back to racing and our return to racing plans and working with a lot of state and local health officials. And, you know, I think as you look at the race weekend in particular, you know, it'll be only essential people at the racetrack. So I'm not going. I know a lot of others in our company that are not going to be there. So essential people only, and there'll be health screenings as everyone goes in, secondary screenings throughout. We'll all be practicing social distancing and compartmentalizing as much as we can at the racetrack. Everyone will have a mask and personal protective equipment, and it'll look very different from what you might traditionally see on a race weekend, obviously without fans. I think that said, as far as the racing product goes on TV, I think a lot to look forward to from that perspective and a fan base. It's, you know, to go back and open our season at Darlington and Charlotte and then go to Bristol and Martinsville, a lot of fan favorites in there, and I think a lot for our fans to look forward to.
What will be the protocol if someone tests positive during the race weekend?
Yeah, so we have a lot of protocols and procedures in place, and you know, as people come in, they'll have a questionnaire before you even get to the racetrack, and that'll be submitted ahead of time. There'll be a screening at track, and then if someone is experiencing symptoms, they'll go to a secondary isolated area. They'll be screened, and then you know, depending on their symptoms and conditions, we'll kind of go from there and treat them as needed. But we'll also be implementing contact tracing as well. So anyone that was in contact with them or you know, close to them as they were coming to the track or around the track will also be able to track that as well.
Please tell me a little bit more about the sanitary and safety protocols of the coming races. For example, I know that the drivers will be arriving on different times for them to go to the medical center and have the temperature check. But is the situation the same with the rest of the team members, or how they will be tested? Because you say like they will have different checkups.
Yeah, so it'll be staggered entry times. So we're going to start really early in the morning, and then each team as they come in will have a dedicated time for their arrival and their departure as well. So I think as you look at it, teams will come in waves, and really the goal of that is to try to isolate as many people as we can and not have you know, the entire Cup garage coming at one time. So we'll be spreading those out. Drivers will come at their own times. We're recommending that they get there with a certain amount of lead time in front of the race, that they can get through all the screening protocols. And from a driver's perspective, they'll be showing up, and as you mentioned, be wearing their masks, personal protective equipment, and they'll be going straight to their cars as soon as they get there. So really trying to limit the amount of interaction and trying to spread as many people out as we can. And then even after the race, all of the cars, vehicles, anything that leaves the garage area will be inspected. We'll have a secondary screening as people are leaving as well. So not only making sure that people are screened ahead of time before they enter the facility, but before they go home and back to their local communities as well.
Just to confirm, 16 team members, right, per team, including the driver, the team manager? Only
Yes.
16.
Yeah, so we went down and limited our team roster. So 15 on the roster, and then if there are any other essential individuals that need to be on it as well, we'll identify them. But trying to limit that as much as we can.
Okay. Can you give me details about the process of that the medical team and marshals will follow in case of an accident, and how will the team areas and garages be?
Yeah, if anyone gets into an accident, I think a lot of the same procedures and protocols will be going in place, and we have AMR doctors on site, and really, a great team of individuals. And while we want to protect and ensure that we are following the same procedures that we've built for decades that have kept our drivers safe, we also make sure that we're doing it safely as well. So as soon as the driver gets out of a car, the first person that gets to him, we'll hand them a mask. We'll social distance and try to limit the amount of interaction. But at the same time, if there is an incident where something happens, we need to make sure that we're getting that person the right attention they need as well.
Perfect. Will there be any fine in case that someone removed their mask or gloves?
Yeah, I think we're looking at it, and we've talked about it internally as well. I think it's really on a case by case basis at this point. So I'm sure we'll have a lot of follow up items coming out of this week, and a lot of learnings even on our side as we think about what the future looks like at Darlington and Charlotte and other areas. But I know there's going to be a lot of things that will be new to a lot of people here, so we'll just have to be as prepared as we can. I believe, and I'm confident that our team is. We'll also have to be ready for some of those curveballs as well.
Perfect. You already told me a little bit about this, but let's go into the obvious, like how weird it will be for NASCAR to be racing without fans.
Yeah, it'll be different. It'll be different for sure. Obviously we won't have fans at Darlington or Charlotte or the next portion of the schedule that we have announced this far. So, really, our top priority at the end of the day is everyone's safety, and fans was a large component of that. So they'll still have the opportunity to tune in on Fox at 3:30 this weekend, so everyone will be able to tune in on television. So I think a lot to look forward to from a fan perspective there. They still get to expect the same great racing that we always have. So I think a lot to look forward to there, and even our partnership with Fox and around the Real Heroes 400. So be a nod to a lot of the individual healthcare workers currently battling the coronavirus pandemic. You'll see on the side panel of a lot of our race cars, the Real Heroes Project logo. They'll also be serving as a grand marshal for our race. So a big nod to Fox and the Real Heroes Project and all of our healthcare workers that have helped us get to this place. And I think, as you tune in on TV as well, Fox will be using more drones for their coverage. They're also trying to limit the amount of people they have at track. So they'll be doing a remote production out of our, the Charlotte offices in Concord that they have. So I think as you look at it from a fan perspective, the racing will look the same, but parts of the broadcast will look a little bit different. And I think it'll actually be really neat to see.
We will have to learn to enjoy it in that way, but I'm sure that we will do it. So there won't be any practice sessions nor qualifying. Tell me a bit more about the process behind the draw for the starting lineup.
Yeah, so the starting lineup, a little bit unique for us, and something that, if you go to a short track or a local track, you might see a little bit more of. So we'll be breaking it into groups of 12. So it'll be your 12 front, your next 12, so 13 to 24, and so on and so forth, and be a random draw for this first race. So, we want to introduce a little bit of variety to the starting lineup, while at the same time also rewarding performance so far in the season. So the first 12 will be your top 12 in points, and it'll go on from there. And then as you look at the next few races in particular, we'll be actually inverting the top 20 from the previous race. So again, incentivizing and rewarding performance at that last race, but also putting in a little bit of variety for a lot of our fans as well.
Like that idea. To keep as close as possible to the stay-home orders, driver will be sleeping in motorhomes. But what's the situation with the other team members?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, a lot of drivers will either be coming in their motorhomes and self-isolating, or they'll be driving in their own cars and isolating in their car before they leave the track. What we're recommending to all the other crew members and teams coming in as well is to, if you can, drive separately and isolate as best you can as you come into the track. Even as you think about your meals, a lot of single serve meals. We'll be providing all the meals at the track as well. So really trying to think about, every step as possible from a team perspective, from a driver perspective, from a healthcare perspective to make sure that from the time you even leave your house to the time that you get home, that you're taking all those right steps and precautions and practicing all the local, guidelines and CDC recommendations as you go through your day as well.
Okay. You already have a calendar until June 21st. How will the logistics be for traveling between the races?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we've announced our schedule through the middle of June now, and I think as you look at the first races in particular, trying to limit or eliminate the amount of nights on the road for a lot of our teams. So no practice, no qualifying, you'll go straight into the race, and a lot of one-day shows and close to Charlotte, North Carolina, where a lot of our teams are based. Eventually we'll get to a point where we'll have to go on the road more. And again, once we get on the road, we'll be trying to limit the amount of nights on the road, and we'll also have additional protocols and procedures for once we get to that point. But really, as we think about the schedule, trying to make sure we're going to the right places at the right times. The last thing we want to do is go and have a negative impact on any community. So really want to be smart about that. At the same time, as we introduce the next iterations of the schedule, we also want to protect the integrity of the regular season and playoffs too. I know that was a big thing for our fans as we announced the 2020 schedule. We want to make sure we try to keep as much of that intact as possible.
The tracks of this new calendar are relatively close. So for the traveling, they will drive or they will be allowed to fly?
Yeah, so what we're recommending, and in particular that a lot of the tracks that we've announced so far is they're within driving distance. So Darlington, Charlotte, Bristol, Martinsville, all within a couple hours of Charlotte, North Carolina, where a majority of our teams are based. We recommend and suggest where you can drive. Eventually, I think we all realize it'll get to a point where you may have to go a little bit further for that, and we'll make sure that everyone is prepared ahead of time for those events.
Okay, could you tell me more about the tracks chosen for the current calendar?
Yeah, of course. So, I think our first announcement a couple weeks ago, you've got Darlington to kick off this Sunday. We'll have a midweek race, which I know a lot of fans are really looking forward to. It's been decades since we've had a midweek race. So that'll be the first time we've done in a really long time. Be Wednesday night at Darlington. Have the Coke 600, another fan favorite on Memorial Day weekend. The Gander trucks will get started at Charlotte. Xfinity starts at Darlington, and then from there we go to Bristol, Martinsville on Wednesday night. Get to keep our night race there. We'll have Miami and Talladega as well in this next portion of the schedule. So I think a lot to look forward to from a fan perspective. Personally, I'm eager to watch all these races. A lot of people love the short tracks and super speedways, and excited to deliver that on the front portion of the schedule.
Perfect. And of course, about the celebration, how will the winner celebration be?
Yeah, so we want to make sure that is also done safely and respectfully as well. So the driver will celebrate as they traditionally do. They'll get out of their car and they'll have the interview. It'll all be socially distanced. So don't really expect anyone getting close or having a microphone in the face. There'll be a lot of kind of boom microphones and everything. So trying to spread out as much as we can. There'll still be a victory lane celebration. I think as you guys will see it on Sunday, really minimal amount of people that will have in victory lane, but they'll still get to do their donuts. They'll still get to pull into victory lane and do their celebratory speech. So trying to keep all those elements in place.
Okay. And Ben, my last question, do you think that the NASCAR protocols will be an example for other sports or other categories?
I think that's a good question. I think it'll be interesting to watch it unfold over the next several weeks and months as the economy and really the world and sports industry starts to get back in motion again. Certainly we have been working alongside several other sports entities, and I think you'll see a lot of shared practices as a lot of these protocols and procedures start to come out. So, certainly I have been working close with them, also working close with a lot of those different states and local health officials and authorities as well to make sure that, wherever we are going, that we're doing it at the right time and we're practicing the right things for that area.
Perfect. Anything else that you would like to add from your side?
I think that's about it from my end. I'd say everyone, tune in this Sunday at 3:30. We'll be on Fox, so really looking forward to it. Looking forward to the Real Heroes 400 and getting back to racing here. And certainly hope everyone is safe and doing well.
Perfect, Ben. Thank you. Stay safe and all the best for this weekend. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos. Ya lo sabe, la NASCAR regresa y está en Fox.